the Vegas Wedding Industry 2022 Town Hall Meeting. This is the first time that we've put this together. My name is Charity. I'm the Community Outreach Chair for the Vegas Wedding Chamber, formerly known as the Las Vegas Wedding Chamber of Commerce. What I do is I help with community outreach events. So I partnered with Government Affairs this month to get everybody here and so that we can ask some of our elected officials some questions about our industry and business as a whole. So I would like to introduce Marcus Lamb, CHT, CG, SP. He's a director of admissions and recruitment here and one of the founding fathers of TISOH. So,
well, welcome everyone. We're very privileged to host this town hall meeting, very important town hall meeting. We've been supporting the wedding industry at large and the wedding chamber for many years now. For those of you who are not familiar with our school, we're an 18-year-old accredited continuing education school. So a lot of you, when you think of education in Nevada, you probably think CSN, UNLV, and they're very important to the community. But what we do is a little different. We help those who are looking for continuing education. So our students are mostly adult learners who are looking to learn a new skill, like for instance, become a wedding planner, an event planner. They're dreamers, they're career changers. They're a little different than your traditional college student. So we've been helping almost 4,000 graduates over our 18 years of operation. And if you want to learn more about our programs, we have postcards on your tables. Our classes are either online or in classroom, and they're taught by industry professionals. So they're very hands-on, very practical. We help our graduates network. We have hundreds of them working in the industry successfully. Charity is one of our graduates, so very proud. So please learn more about us, and I'll turn it over to Brian.
So your host for the evening first moved to Las Vegas in 1999 to work for Cirque du Soleil as a singer, and then became the youngest host and principal singer of the longest running production show in Las Vegas history, the Foley's Bergère. Shifted into the wedding business in 2001, and due to massive closures caused by 9/11, he led one of the busiest wedding chapels in Las Vegas as the chapel general manager through the housing crisis and economic slowdown of 2009, and statistically modeled Las Vegas stats since 2007. Currently serves as a full-time wedding officiant at Little Church of the West and runs his own company, Theme Las Vegas Weddings, specializing in theme weddings at music festivals like Viva Las Vegas Rockabilly Weekender and the Electric Daisy Carnival. So your government affairs director and your next president of the Vegas Wedding Chamber, and just so happens to be my husband, Brian Mills.
Thank you, Charity. So welcome everybody. We're so happy to have you here. We're so honored to be putting this together for a while now, and I'm so excited to present this to you tonight. So what I want to do is we're going to introduce the panel team. They'll come on up, and I just have a few issues and questions to kind of discuss with them, and then we're going to open the floor up to you guys. Feel free to ask them questions or discuss anything you'd like to talk about. Our industry is very important to the economy here in Southern Nevada, and we're very appreciative that our elected officials are here tonight to help us discuss it. So starting off our panel, the Nevada State Senator since 2012 and serves as the co-majority whip of the state Senate. He has a doctorate in business administration from Walden University. She's a former member of the United States Army Military Police Corps, and she's also an ordained minister. So she's one of us. Ladies and gentlemen, State Senator Pat Spearman. Cecelia González is a Thai Mexican American, daughter of immigrants, and a native Nevadan. She's been with the Nevada Assembly since 2020 in District 16, correct? Yeah. Serves on several committees, including the Legislative Operations Committee in the State Assembly, and she is a UNLV PhD candidate in multicultural education. I believe that's why she has to leave early tonight, because she has class. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Cecelia González. Our next panelist was first elected to represent District E in the Clark County Commission in 2018. He was with the White House Personnel Office for U.S. President Jimmy Carter. He represented Las Vegas in the Nevada Assembly from 2007 to 2013 and as a state senator from 2013 to 2017. His mother also served in the Nevada Assembly, as did his grandmother and great-grandfather. So that makes him a fourth-generation Nevada state representative. Ladies and gentlemen, Segerblom. And our fourth panelist tonight, a little bit of a change, was going to be our county clerk, Lynn Goya, but she's not feeling very well. So I have here tonight one of the ladies that work in her office is going to be here with us. She's from Chicago. She's lived in Las Vegas for 23 years, and she's worked in the county office for 11 years. She's the Records Administration Manager for the Clark County Marriage Bureau, Paula Cook. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about the wedding business just for a minute, kind of catch everybody up, and some of our panelists who may not know it, as ingrained it as we are. 2022 has been a great year for our industry. It appears we have continued to earn our designation as the wedding capital of the world. Our reach has expanded to not only include chapel weddings on the Strip, but to big luxury hotel weddings, beautiful off-strip venues and unique offerings, weddings at sporting events and music festivals, and now possibly to cannabis consumption lounges. It seems everywhere you go and everything you can do, you can also incorporate a wedding of some kind. And while we are approaching 80,000 marriage licenses being issued for 2022, yes, we're getting close. It's an amazing accomplishment. There are also a segment of visitors and locals that also renew their vows and have non-legal commitment ceremonies. According to the Las Vegas Sun, one chapel reported that approximately 40 to 50% of their pre-pandemic business was actually from vow renewals. So, I think it's pretty safe estimate to conclude that as many as 25,000 couples renew their vows in Las Vegas each year as well. So while experts conclude that weddings bring in about $2.4 billion of revenue to our city every year, the actual figure could be much higher. And according to the most recent Las Vegas visitor profile released by the LVCVA, 1 in every 25 visitors to Las Vegas comes here to either get married or attend a wedding. The same rate as 2019 before the pandemic. That means that about 1.7 million people come to our city for what we provide as an industry. That's double the number of people that attend Golden Knights games for an entire season. So we matter. Yes. Sometimes I think that the wedding industry gets lost in the mix of Las Vegas stories because of the increasing competitive noise our industry is up against. The What Happens Here Only Happens Here campaign that the LVCVA launched right before the pandemic. You guys remember that 2020 Super Bowl commercial with Shania Twain riding the horse down Fremont? A lot of people don't because like a month later, everything shut down. So we're constantly competing with different stories about Las Vegas, and it's growing even more, and it's getting even bigger, and we're expanding even further. And the panel here tonight is involved in a lot of that expansion, a lot of the funding of that expansion. So the first question I'll ask you, Senator Spearman, I'll start down with you. What challenges do you feel are affecting your district or jurisdiction that you are most concentrated on to address in 2023? And these can be non-wedding issues, just we want to get to know you a little bit and what your issues are that you care about.
So thank you, and thank you for the invitation, and thank you all for coming. It'd be pretty weird for me to talk and nobody's in the seat, so thank you. You know, we have an extreme housing crisis. There are people who are losing their home, people who are, rents are going up and they can't afford it. So the housing crisis is foremost on my mind. The next thing that is affecting a lot of my constituents in Senate District 1 happens to be hospitality, because as more and more of the gamers do things like go automated, that means that there are jobs that will be lost. And so what I'd really like to do is I'd like to make sure that we're pulling together all the resources, the training resources that we can, and come up with a curriculum that would allow those for whom we know their jobs will be displaced by technology in the next 5 to 10 years, make sure that they have a chapter 2.
Simply good job.
Yeah, so I actually got drawn into the district in this view year, and so I'm actually still getting to know a lot of my constituents. I would say from my previous and like shared district, the number one thing was definitely like the economy, so making sure that people have livable wages and jobs and health care, and that they can provide for their families. That's probably the number one thing, as well as education is a really big topic right now. And the board of trustees, I would say I hear that from a lot of constituents as well.
Commissioner Segerblom.
So, this is what they said, water is obviously a big issue, not necessarily today, but going forward, I think we have to look at what we want to be as a town. Do we want to be a smaller town with lawns and trees and things, or do we want to be a desert with more people and more cars? And so I think right now is an opportune time for us to look at where we're going, where we've been, and do we want to slow down a little bit? Do we want to try to plan for the future, or do we just want to grow like we grow, which is we grow fast and then we stop, and we grow fast and we stop, and there's always a fits and starts. So I'd like to kind of take this opportunity to kind of even it out and plan for the next 50 years, so that we all can, maybe I won't be around, but some of you guys, most of you guys will be here to, you know, even it out and have a job for a good, steady job. The other thing is we're obviously getting hotter, so we need to focus on how we're gonna be able to keep the temperatures down, maybe pave the streets with some kind of white, have more trees, just think about how we can have a better quality of life.
Ms. Cook, what are some of the challenges that you face at the Marriage Bureau that you see?
So for all of you who are marriage officiants that have to drop off certificates, you know that we had to close down our government center office. We've had a big turnover of staff. A lot of our long-term employees have gone on to other departments, they've been promoted, which means we've had to hire new staff. I don't wanna bag on the county, because all other places are in the same position as us. It's really hard to get people to even show up for interviews. I literally had to go to Zoom interviews just to get people to accept an interview. So we're finally getting to staffing, where we're gonna be fully staffed, hopefully before the end of the year. One of the problems that we have is that we're open 7 days a week. We're open till 12:30 in the morning, and people have to work Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, so it's a hard sell.
Especially in a government job. You know, they tell people all the time, it's the only government office open on Christmas Day, you know?
I actually didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, they're open from 8 to midnight every single day, even Christmas, yeah.
The next interview they get accepted for with the county is probably gonna be a Monday to Thursday job.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, thanks for the offer, but we're not taking the Marriage Bureau.
Yeah. Well, last year, the LVCVA launched a new ad campaign, Forever Happens Here. It was a fantastic initiative that was funded by the money that the clerk's office received from the LVCVA Special Marketing Fund. While that was a wonderful contribution to promoting our industry, we've also seen other successful promotions of Las Vegas weddings through the issuing of our 5 millionth wedding license earlier this year. We had coverage of our 2/22/22 weddings, the social media campaign that's been levied by the partners of the county clerk's office, and even Ben and J-Lo getting married was good promotion. Don't get me started on that wedding. I was supposed to do that wedding. I have the text from Ben Affleck to prove it. Ms. Cook and Commissioner Segerblom, how do you feel that the LVCVA's role in promoting Las Vegas has gone this year, and are there any new plans to upgrade any promotions or continue the current campaign that you know of?
I don't work a lot with the LVCVA, but we have been working with them with another promotion that's gonna be coming up in March. It has been awesome working with them. They have a lot of really good people, and just working together for a common goal of bringing people here to Vegas.
Any details about that?
In March, we're planning a huge vow renewal and other activities that go with that. We're still trying to put everything together, so hopefully within the next week, we're gonna be rolling out a lot of details about that. But it's supposed to be a very huge party. And Vegas loves parties.
Yeah.
Just to brag about her boss, Lynn, I think we were kind of living on a reputation, but weren't really promoting weddings like we could before Lynn took office. and she's really focused on trying to do that. She came when I was in the legislature, she came up there and we passed a bill where we added $5 or something to the wedding licenses for advertising weddings. The convention authority stole that money, but we're slow to we're getting that back, and now I think they're starting to work more of a partnership because they do have a lot of resources. But it is truly something which makes so much more money than we spend on it, that I think going forward we can do a lot more to promote weddings, because it is just a bonanza for us, and this year proved that people want to come here for lots of things, but they have to get married. So.
My wife had talked earlier about the housing crisis in 2009. You know, when that hit, and I was running a wedding chapel, we switched our marketing to, instead of just promoting the fun of the Vegas weddings have, we also pushed to promote the fact that why do a $25,000 wedding at home? Average weddings were only $25,000 back then. It's much higher now. But why do a $25,000 wedding back home when you can come to Las Vegas and do your whole wedding for $2,500? Or, you know, even more if you use the other vendors and other services that we offer. So I hope that they kind of look at that as a marketing idea to help bring weddings back here, because with the inflation and with the economy and some of the other challenges that we face as a community, I think promoting Vegas as an alternative for people to come here. And it really, the Vegas wedding industry is so unique in that we really are wedding tourism in some respects. We have other segments where we do compete on that level of weddings like other places have. But we really do have that wedding tourism component that makes us unique and special. Well, with the new year comes a new legislative session here in Nevada. In case some of you are not aware, our legislature meets for 4 months every 2 years. So in 2023, that will be February 6th to June 5th. So I want to talk about one specific bill from the last 2021 session. Assemblywoman Gonzalez, you were a co-sponsor of SB 177, which raised the marriage license fees across the state by $25 to increase funding for domestic violence shelters and creating a funding source for sexual violence shelters in the state. I think that has been very successful, and I think it's been a really wonderful use of money to fund such an important cause. And while no one is against funding these vital services, we as an industry were taken aback to see that we were trying to recover from a crippling pandemic, that our industry was being called upon to carry that burden when other revenue sources could possibly be available. Some argued, including our Government Affairs Committee chair at the time, as well as our president, that raising the vehicle licensing fees by, say, $1 could have provided more funding than what SB 177 ultimately provided. If you can recall any of the process at all, could you expand on that a little bit, and how it was determined that raising the marriage license fees was the most efficient source of revenue for these very important organizations?
Yeah, so thank you everyone for having me here. Thank you so much for the question. So I was a co-sponsor, however I didn't directly work on the bill, and I think that why the conversation came about is that there was already a fee there. And so if folks don't know, there was already a fee going towards these services. However, since the creation of this fee, there has never been an increase, right? And so I think the conversation was probably like, there's already this fee here, let's increase it to be able to provide more funding. I think that we absolutely do need to provide other funding mechanisms, especially when we toggle between top 5, when we talk about female homicide with a firearm against a partner, right, and things like that. And so I think that was probably part of the conversation of, this is already what's in place, this is already working.
Sure.
And like I said, I think that we definitely need more ways to fund those services.
Absolutely. Paula, can you talk a little bit about how that increase affected the Marriage Bureau? I mean, many would argue that we're doing more weddings than we did before the increase. So the effect on the wedding industry has maybe been negligible or not? I mean, what was your experience from being on the front lines?
So we actually implemented the increase July 1st of 2021. So it was when we're kind of recovering from COVID. And for us, it was a huge increase. It went from $77 to $102. So $25 added on to what it already was is huge. So people think that $102, like, I do make so much money on a marriage license. Well, $50 of every one of those is going to domestic violence funding, which I'm not against, but that's a huge hit. We do online applications where everybody fills out their application before they come in. So I was concerned about the blowback from customers when they came in and they were gonna have to pay $25 more from 77, which I thought 77 was kind of high already. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but we did have a lot of customers saying, well, I already applied online 3 months ago before the increase, don't I get to pay that price? Sorry, you don't. And Brian brought up, you know, $2,500 for a wedding here, so people do come here because it is cheaper and so much stuff is included. And now they have to factor in a $102 license into that, so I'm sure a lot of the other businesses suffered, you know, whether it's flowers or makeup or dress rentals, chapels, there's so many. And, you know, when I took this job, I never realized how many businesses were involved with this industry. And it's so much because Vegas has so much to offer. Helicopters, whoever would have thought that. You know, hikers going to Red Rock to go hiking and take photographs. You know, we have some photographers in here. They have amazing photos because Vegas does everything for people, but now it's a huger hit for people. So if that goes up even more, you know, I'm afraid people are gonna go to other destinations.
So, like every other industry in Southern Nevada, the wedding industry took a major hit during the pandemic. And while we are headed in the right direction of recovery, there are still several wedding businesses trying to recoup losses from unemployment, overhead, advertising, logistical support, and et cetera. The CARES Act that was passed last year in 2021, the state ended up getting $2.7 billion in aid, and the bill also sent aid to cities and counties as well. Clark County received $440 million, and Las Vegas got $131 million. So, Senator Spearman, I'll ask you first. As the chair of the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee, have you seen any bill draft requests for the 2023 session that may include assistance or distributing of these funds in which members of our wedding community could get help? And I understand the tourism grants that were applied for and distributed, we did apply for a grant, but we were ultimately denied.
So, funny thing about the field draft request, I, like many of my colleagues, don't put everything out there because we're trying to work with stakeholders to make sure that we've got all the information that we need, and talking to people, answering questions. If there's a hiccup or something, they say, oh, that's never gonna, that won't make it out of committee, then we do that. So I have not personally seen that. Does that mean that they're not there? No. And people have a better idea about what that looks like when it comes probably about the end of January or so. And let me say a little bit about fees, because in the legislature, anytime you raise a fee, it has to be a constitutional majority. And unlike other things, you can just do a simple majority, but a constitutional majority. And one of the things, as you learn pretty quickly, as a legislator, you have to decide whether you want to make a statement or whether you want to make change. And so sometimes you have to, in order to get the bill out, in order to get the fee or whatever it is, sometimes there's some compromises that you have to make. And you know, I always look at it like this: we can make incremental changes. Maybe I don't like exactly what happened this year, but if we can always come back next year and fix it. But for any time you raise a fee, and that means that it's going to have to be bipartisan. In the Senate, that means 14 senators. Right now, we only have 12. So anytime we talk budget or raising fees, we're going to need 2 Republicans. I'm not sure what the...
We just got to 28, so just very excited about that.
Yeah, so that's always something to consider. And I would say just go to the legislative website and you know, look at it. There's also something, Personal Legislative Tracker, PLT, that you can go to the Nevada Legislative website and put that in, and anything that you're interested in as a citizen, as just a private citizen, not representing any business or anything like that, you can get, I think it's 25, and you just put that in, and every time something happens with that bill, when it comes to the committee, when it comes out of the committee, when it comes up for a vote, you'll get a little ding on your email, so you will know when that's going to be, and you will also know when they will be bringing it to committee so if you want to testify for or against, you'll know that as well.
That's great, thank you. Commissioner Segerblom, do you know of any anticipated programs or initiatives that the county will consider where our industry could benefit from some of the money granted to Clark County by the CARES Act?
I don't, I'm not sure if you applied for anything from us as far as we had the money for businesses and we had grants for Chamber of Commerce and things. I'm not sure if you'd applied for that, but I don't know anything specific right now, but for the first time in my lifetime, we actually do have money. There's gonna be $1 billion surplus in the legislature, hopefully you guys can spend it. We got a lot of money from the federal government, so we actually have money too, so, if you have an idea, reach out, because we do have money targeted, and it looks like it'd be a huge amount of money, but every little bit helps.
Anything is good. Anything is good. So this is the last topic I'll bring up, and then we'll open the floor to any questions or comments you guys want to make. One of the more exciting and interesting new business sectors coming to Southern Nevada is the opening of cannabis consumption lounges. With the opening of the lounges, there are new and exciting opportunities for our industry to expand and grow. Planet 13 already conducts and promotes weddings in its dispensary, so we know that there is a market there. But with growth comes possible challenges as well. At the Medical Marijuana Monthly Luncheon at Lowry's back in July, I personally heard stories from cannabis businesses that could receive fines from the State Cannabis Compliance Board starting at $10,000 per infraction, and sometimes exceed $100,000. Obviously, small businesses in Clark County could be crippled or eliminated by such fines. So Commissioner Segerblom, I know that you finalized regulations for just the consumption lounges themselves just a couple months ago, but is there any talk or plans to require separate business licenses for vendors that want to work in these facilities? And is there any thoughts on providing liability protection for these vendors so that they are protected from such fines?
Well, I don't think we can protect a business from a fine from another agency, so, but we are looking, I know, to reduce those fines, and if it takes legislation or just job owning, they've gone way overboard as far as the fines. But as far as supporting the businesses, there shouldn't have to be a separate business license. I mean, if you have a wedding license, you should be able to go into one of these lounges and do weddings without any kind of extra fee or anything like that. And so one of the problems with lounges is no one's ever figured out how you charge somebody money to buy marijuana, and you charge money to go in a room and smoke it. So that's why the wedding part is going to really come in to be fun, because that'll at least add incentive to use the lounges. But it's a wide open world, but I'm looking forward to part of Las Vegas. You know, we sell a sin, and this fits perfectly. Weddings and marijuana. How more sinful could you be?
Paula, does the clerk's office have a position on weddings in these lounges as an influencer in the marketing of weddings in Las Vegas? Is this a sector that you see weddings, the marketing or the LVCAVA's marketing that would promote weddings in cannabis consumption facilities?
So when Lynn took office, the Hangover movie was out, and people would wake up from being drunk and be married, and Vegas kind of became the big joke. And it's taken a little long time to push that down, and we're not considered the Hangover wedding.
Well, they still do tours of it.
They do, yeah.
They still refer to it.
They still do.
So I've denied a lot of people marriage licenses because they're drunk or high.
Yeah.
And I have no problem doing it because they're not in their right mind to make a decision that's gonna affect the rest of their lives or their finances. So to me, I'm just protecting people, and I would hope that since we don't give a license to people like that, I would hope that they do the legal part of the ceremony first and take care of that part, the legalities of it, before they partake in the other festivities.
I didn't even know you could deny a marriage license.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you can't marry somebody if they're not.
And we're technically not supposed to perform wedding ceremonies if they appear to be that way as well. Yeah.
So how is the cannabis like gonna
How
work?
would that tie into
Yeah.
that legality?
Well, that's what we're trying to develop. I've been personally working with Commissioner Segerblom this year. We've had meetings and talked about, like, is there a set of standards that we can come up with?
They're gonna be
Because
intoxication
because well, there's alcohol awareness cards that people have to get in order to work in bars or casinos around alcohol to teach you signs to show you when people are drunk. So I've been coming up with an education program in which we can teach people. I had wanted to do something where the wedding chamber could actually do a certification program, but it doesn't appear that that's going to be possible. But we can still issue a set of guidelines that people can follow to help them operate inside of this business.
So
I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you mention that
there's already certain laws around that in working in the lounge? Is that what you were trying to get more information on?
We were talking about what we could possibly, a set of standards in which, primarily was for wedding officiants who have to actually do, as Paula said, the legal portion of the weddings. So, you know, if you're somebody that never smoked it, or you're somebody that's never been around it, you might not know what that looks like. So you don't want someone later on to then cite that they were high when they got married, therefore their marriage isn't legal, and the minister's going, well, the only thing I've been told is that we can't do it when they're drunk. So it's just something that we're talking about. It's something that the wedding chambers, like I said, not everybody wants to work in that sector. Not everybody wants to be involved in that particular line of industry. We just want to make it so that if you want to work in that industry, you have a set of standards to follow that can help you maybe have a more successful business.
And to that end, we are working on some type of standard where if somebody is in the lounge and appears to be intoxicated, they can't just go out and get in a car. So the employees there will be trained on how to observe things to the extent you can, but you know, obviously you can't see everything. It's not like you'll be falling down drunk as much as you might just be a little bit, whatever.
So we're going to open the floor. I will say, if any of you have specific comments or questions for Senator Spearman or Senator González, please address them first, because they are the two that have to leave a little bit early today.
First of all, thank you, all of you. It was so informative, and I think this is great. And Brian, thank you for what you've done. But Senator Spearman and González, maybe you can lead us in a direction. As you heard, and you heard Paula talk about it, we have this huge crisis with employment. People are not going back to work for whatever reason. What do you see with the minimum wage being increased? Anything on the table to subsidize companies that maybe can't afford to, but maybe they can apply for aid? What's your thoughts?
So, I carried the bill 2 sessions ago, 2019, for pay equity. And there were a lot of people who said, you know, well, it'll hurt small businesses. But what I found out, small businesses, if you have employees and you're not paying them equitably, then someone can come right along and take, you know. So one of the things that I think we might be looking at is childcare is a real problem. Childcare and elder care is a real problem, because we have a lot of people who are in that sandwich generation, where they're taking care of a parent and they also have children. I don't think that we have looked enough at some of the reasons why people aren't coming back to work, but certainly child care is one of them. And what we can't do is demonize people, paint with a broad brush, and demonize people because they don't come back to work, because there are a lot of people who have very legitimate reasons. So if there is a way for us to use the constitutional amendment that just passed, if there's a way to do that, okay, but I think even that is probably not a livable wage, but it gets us almost there. So for small businesses, you know, part of what you build in your business plan is what is it gonna cost for personnel, and that's salary, that's benefits, that's all that go along with it. So what is it gonna cost? I think those are still discussions that we have to have, if that makes sense to you, but I know what I hear a lot is child care and elder care.
Pretty soon my daughter will have to take care of me. What can I say? Thank you. Did you want to add anything to that, Cecelia?
No, other than I think just, you know, with my generation, a livable wage is really important, and I think that, you know, if people are thinking like, if I'm gonna go out there and risk my life, I'm not even getting health care, I'm not making a livable wage, like, is it worth it, really, right? And I think that a lot of what Dr. Spearman said, right, a lot of these conversations of why folks aren't going back to work, we still haven't, I think, addressed as a community. Childcare is huge, even in conversations of people going to school, right? And so I just agree.
Jody.
Again, thank you. I'm gonna echo Maria Romano over here, but thank you guys for coming today. A question, by the way, my name is Jody Harris. I own a company here in Las Vegas called Sight and Sound Events, where we provide DJ entertainment, and photography, and video, and event planning. So we're kind of an all-in-one. So I hear a lot, I do over 300 weddings a year, this year probably even more. But the thing I hear from my clients, which are mostly destination clients, is the problem with the homeless. It is a big problem for us. The homeless, the crime, what are we doing about that? Because that affects the wedding industry. I mean, the Marriage License Bureau is downtown, Chapel Row. I just watched a video the other day on YouTube, the most dangerous neighborhoods in Las Vegas, and they all center around Chapel Row. What can we do? And I don't know if this is a commissioner question to ask, but what are we doing?
Well, it probably is, and I can't say we have a silver bullet, but we are slowly developing teams, social worker teams, but we'll add a cop to it, who will go out and find people and physically move them. The key is we don't want to put them into jail, so we're now trying to develop what I call a navigation center, but somewhere where we can take them, evaluate what their issue is, so they need health care, whatever, they're addicted, they need some kind of substance abuse treatment, they have mental health treatment, and then provide short-term housing for that while we get those services provided, medication, whatever it is, and then intermediate care where we can transition them into a longer-term place, and then, but ultimately, they have a house. And we're 70,000 units short in Clark County, so it's not just the people who see on the street that have a hard time. Everybody's having a hard time. The other thing is we need to make sure that people are getting ready to be evicted or are losing their job and that we step in right then. They found out that if we can stop them before they become homeless, that's a much better way than somebody's been homeless for a few years. But it is a tremendous problem. One of the things I'm going to propose is to tax alcohol and have that tax go specifically to homeless. You know, we have $12 million a year we do on marijuana taxes for homeless, but there's no reason alcohol couldn't do $100 million, and people would not notice it. And at the end of the day, it is just providing services. You know, there's no silver bullet. It's just we need to be there, available, be able to reach out, find places where we can take them, and then try to give them assistance. And then a lot of the people, they'll say, well, they're just hardcore. They really don't want to come in out of it. And that may be true in the short term, but over long term, no one wants to live out there on a day like tonight or in the middle of the summer. I mean, that just, you cannot tell me that that's just that's a lifestyle for somebody who is sane. Of course, when you're out there for a couple of days, you're probably crazy no matter what.
But I will say I was there at the Marriage License Bureau about 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock the other night.
Last night.
It was beautiful. Nobody was hanging out there. It was
Well, if you
really
know-
nice.
Well, if you
They're
notice.
the Venetian now.
Yeah. Well, if you notice during the NFL draft, they were all taken away somewhere. They were not around our city because the media and they were all out there. I don't know where they put them, but, you know.
Well, the RJC did take out all the park benches that were around the building, and that helped tremendously for us. But you're right, they did all just move out like a half a block to a block out, because when I drive in, and especially on the weekends, when I come in, they're all laying on the sidewalk on the way to the marriage. So if customers are walking there, they have to walk past.
I think with the NFL draft, because there was such an increased police presence and security presence from the hotels,
Yes, right.
I think naturally, they're gonna wander away from that presence, so that's probably.
We're talking about, lack of employees. We're 250 cops short, we're 1,000 people short at the county. And there's again, it's gonna be a lot of social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists. We have the worst mental health system in the country probably. So there's just lots of things we need to do, but to be able to devote the resources to do that. And that's where, it does take money. As she said, it's 2/3, so it's not a simple thing, but we can increase, like the alcohol, we can do a 3% override with majority vote. And that's why I'm gonna push for that starting in January.
And let me say something else about the homeless. Some of the people that are homeless are veterans, and I try to remind people that there was a time when the military did not acknowledge that there were reciprocated things from war that people come home with and can't find a job. So one of the things that I'm looking at is how do we provide not just housing, but we need to have a whole system of wraparound services. And some of those veterans, they're homeless, not for their own doing, but they're homeless because they can't find a job. They can't find a job, and I tell people anymore, don't tell me thank you for your service. I need to see some tangible activity that shows your gratitude. Because if you're just gonna say thank you for your service, that doesn't mean anything to me. And that doesn't mean anything to someone who, lost a hand or foot in Afghanistan, so.
Something that my constituents deal with as well, and that we saw during the pandemic, is housing vouchers. So the time that it takes to process a housing voucher, we've seen that, the property can sell that unit, right? And so it's not that folks are necessarily being discriminated against, it's also the process, right? And so I brought a bill last session, I'm bringing it back this session to make source of income a protected class, because especially in our state, we were hit the hardest with unemployment. People are trying to gain apartments and housing and can't because the industry doesn't recognize unemployment as income, right? Which is true, you're on it for a certain amount of time, right? That was how I paid my rent, right? And other people should be allowed to use that because it is income, we're taxed on it, right? And so that's something that, when we're talking about homelessness, it is a very multifaceted issue. And I think for me, my lens is the humanity aspect of it, right? I don't want cops to just come and pick these people up and take them to a disclosed location, right? Like, these are humans that have gone through very difficult things to be in this circumstance. So, but I think the pandemic definitely exacerbated the situation, which I think maybe is why people either notice it more or see it more, whereas prior, it was in very secluded areas, right? And so I think that is also adding to it.
Anybody else?
I would just make a quick comment on what you said about the housing crisis being such an issue for Las Vegas. And I've only been in Vegas for a year, relocated from the Midwest, and so I've seen this happening here. I moved into an apartment complex where the average price of a 2-bedroom in Henderson was, I understand last year, about $1,300. I'm paying $2,100 for a 2-bedroom apartment in Henderson. And they are throwing people out as fast as they can. And this is Olin Properties. They have at least 13 properties in Las Vegas. They're not local, they're out of state, they're here in your state with this real estate. They don't care what's happening to the people that are getting displaced and who lives in apartment complexes, people who are the lowest income earners. They're being forced out, yeah, me too, but they're being forced out. These people cannot afford it. They're raising their rents $600 a month when their lease comes up right now. And I don't know who the hell they're renting to. Honestly, there's so many empty units, but all of their properties are doing it. All of their properties are doing it. And they are there. That is gonna be a ripple effect in such a huge way economically. As you force your low-income earners out, people are packing up and moving back to Michigan and Tennessee and wherever to live with family because they can't find the work to support that kind of rent.
So, a lot of my employees do rent, and a lot of their rents have gone up.
Yeah.
And a lot of my employees are looking for higher paying jobs within the county, so I'll be losing employees as well.
Right.
And no disrespect to the county, but they did have a job fair where they were touting no job under $20 an hour. My window clerks start under $20 an hour. So I don't know what I can do with, I'm gonna be losing people because they're looking for better paying jobs.
Yeah.
The out-of-state hedge funds came in about a lot of the apartment buildings, a lot of the houses.
It was the same thing with the housing, it's the same thing. There's rentals in my area and all the rentals in the housing went up like $600 to $800.
One thing we did was, they were trying to do Airbnb, and we think we've squashed that a little bit, so they're gonna be more houses come up on the market. But another thing we're trying to do is build more apartments and then build affordable housing. But that's a slow process too.
Have you,
Hold on, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question for Cecelia. So you were on sounds like you were on the committee in regards to increasing the fees towards domestic violence. So like Brian said, that was very jarring to us as an industry because we're all about promoting love and healthy relationships. And so why was domestic violence tied to our industry? So my first community outreach project was actually in regards to Safe Nest, doing a donation drive because I wanted to marry the marriage bureau or the wedding industry with why we had this. And people were asking me exactly where does that money go? So you can say generally we send it here or there, but is there an actual trail of where that money goes and how it's being utilized?
Yeah, so from what I know based on, so I actually used to be an advocate before I ran for office for these various organizations. And what ends up happening is these different organizations apply for money to be given. They have to qualify for the money, so they have to do, I think it is domestic violence outreach in their services to be able to obtain that money. Don't quote me, I'm not entirely sure. And then, so why did the marriage license industry get targeted? That's a great question that, you know, I wasn't around 30 years ago when the fee was first implemented, or 50 years ago, or I'm not entirely certain. It has been decades that we have had this fee. So the history of the bill, you know, I don't know. We can definitely, I could definitely ask LCB and get back to you on that. And yeah, I sat on the Judiciary Committee, which is where the bill came, the committee that it came through, and then it went to the floor. But as Dr. Spearman explained, right, we need 2/3 to have changed that law. So it was bipartisan because at the time we didn't have a supermajority in the Assembly, and we were 2 votes short in the Senate. So, you know, it was a team effort on all folks to provide this money.
So is there a list of organizations that?
Yeah.
You're right on, Simone. So let me say this, and this is something that all of you all know us do. Every 10 years there's a census, and there are people who, for whatever reason, say they're not going to fill it out. It's important that everyone do that, because some of the services that we're trying to fund, some of the money can come here from the federal government from other programs, but it is based on population. And when we come up, you know, 100,000 short, that's money. That's money. So the next time it comes around, if you all are still in business, I don't mean you, you know, if you're not retired, if you're not retired, I would say make a push to make sure that your employees understand what that means, because the more we can defer from state to federal, then the less we have to come back and look at fees. And like I keep saying, it's a tough road to hoe, because you know you're gonna meet with opposition.
And I will say too, with fees in our state, a lot of things about Nevada is we are a fee-run state, right? We look at things like our courts, the criminal justice system, and so that is something that, as a legislator, we're mindful of that fees. You know, who is it impacting the most? How do we make this feasible for the industry, the stakeholders, right? I had a bill last session with Majority Leader Kenneth Zaro about getting rid of being able to suspend someone's license for not paying their fine, right? Well, come to find out, a portion of that bucket of money goes to paving our roads and tolls, right? And so, you know, you don't have all the answers all the time in figuring out, you know, so we passed this bill, we had to then go to the federal government and say, hey, can you reimburse what the DMV would lose, right? And so there's certain programs that are existing through the federal government. Like Dr. Spearman said, we can go and ask them for money. In terms of your question of list of organizations, yes, there is a list of organizations. There's actually a statewide domestic violence and sexual assault action coalition that is together of organizations from north and south of Nevada that are all have that mission of wanting to end violence. Yeah, and we can get that to you. I can definitely ask the history. And
I actually think I've found that before.
Yeah,
So
I did have one.
you realize that before that fee was increased, there was 0 funding for sexual violence in Nevada.
How did they do it before?
They did it.
There was funding. The $25 was being used to help domestic violence shelters, but for specific sexual violence shelters, and especially in the rural counties, there was, I believe it was somewhere in Elko, was servicing like 5 different counties with 1 center. So there was a need for that. you know, we can have debates and arguments about the logistics of where the money came from. I think the important thing that we kind of want to impose, to the vote to you guys is just, you know, maybe make somebody else's turn next time. Maybe somebody else's turn next time. You know, and again, we're not arguing that it's a bad thing. I think we just, you know, I think it's something we can look at with different industries.
And I was gonna say with all industries, right, this is a problem for all industries, is finding consistent streams of revenue that aren't fees, right? In our state, it's difficult when we don't have a state income tax, right? When we don't tax alcohol, right? So, you know, these are things that we are still having
We
conversations.
also have the lowest gaming taxes in the country.
Yeah.
You know, our property taxes are low. I mean, the reality is that we don't tax coal mines. I mean, the problem is the people that could pay the taxes can control the legislature so they don't get taxed.
Yeah.
And
Hey, they
so-
don't control me. Just putting that out there. And
They came after you.
yeah, they actually did. That's what happens when you aren't controlled by corporations. They come after you. I have to head out. This was so great. Thank you so much. You have my contact information.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so,
Want to do something go as well? Yeah, it's okay.
You might have another question.
Yes, I have one question before you guys head out. We talk a lot about challenges. You guys are in these roles to handle challenges. What are you most excited about for 2023, or what benefit, greatest opportunity do you see for the wedding industry in 2023?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I'm just excited to celebrate love. Like, I think people have just been, you know, it's been tough for everyone. So I think, like, seeing commercials and promoting that stuff about Las Vegas and our community, you know, we're not just casinos, we're a community here. Even with the conversation about us choosing, you know, our senator, like, people think that we just all live in hotels, and so that's great to shift the narrative and the conversation as well. Yeah.
Ditto. The other thing that I would say is, when we were discussing, marriage equality in 2013,
That's important.
Thank you. When we were discussing, marriage equality in 2013, and then we brought it back in 2017, the thing that people kept talking about was biblical marriage. And so I think, and I'm an ordained minister, seminary trained, and so my question to them was, biblical marriage as in Abraham who married his half-sisters? Or, let's be clear when you say that. So the other thing that you all can help do is people have to get educated, so that they're not throwing out these draconian phrases and things of that nature. Love is love. Love is love, and people shouldn't be penalized because of their gender. And incidentally, we just passed the most expansive equal rights amendment of any state in Nevada. Question 1 passed, I think it was like maybe 2-1, and includes a lot of things. So we can be proud that we were able to get that passed in this last election. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Time for one or two more?
I wanted to ask, maybe Tig could answer this. You heard, we were all talking about the housing crisis. There are some counties in California that rents can only be increased by 3 or 5% to 10%. Has Clark County actually looked at that because of what is going on?
Absolutely. And that, they just tried to do it in North Las Vegas, and the city council turned them down, but that's gonna be something that comes up next year, both in the legislature. There's a question whether we have the legal authority to do it, but it's really more the will, that we have the will to do it. And so several of us have the will, but we don't have the majority yet. But it is, rent control is coming.
It's got to.
It may be too late, but it's gonna come.
Get it, Jason? Okay. Anybody else?
I have one final thought. So it's about the sports, and I don't know necessarily if this would pertain to the two of you.
The Raiders are terrible.
This we can't agree.
The sports industry, as great as it is really gonna hurt our industry as wedding professionals, because it's just gonna be so hard for people to come down to get married on the weekend of the Formula One, when room rates are, what, $6,000, I read somewhere at Caesars?
1 million at
$1
the
million if you want to
wedding.
win.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the Raiders, we're talking about all this exciting stuff, but we as an industry, as wedding professionals, we really gotta think about this. Like, it's just, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if there's anything that can be done. I don't know if this is a Lynn thing, you know, that we, with the
Can we tax the
LVCVA.
Formula One drivers, maybe?
Well,
Really quick.
but here's an example. We are having to pay, the Clark County is gonna have to pay $40 million to pay for the Formula
No
One.
way.
For the improvements.
Even though that, just that 1 mile strip along the strip, you know, the rates, that the hotels are jacking the
Yeah.
rooms up to, is gonna, you know, raise $40 million in a week,
Yeah.
or one night. So it's just,
But do you guys get that money back? I mean.
no, we don't, that's what I'm saying, we're pulling out of,
Wow.
out of our coffers that you guys your harder taxes to pay for that, even though the hotels are gonna make a
That's what
How does that get approved? I don't understand
But
this.
there's
That's election politics, and in this state, the hotels control.
the control.
Yeah.
Nevada Resort,
I mean,
NRA.
even as a vendor, let's say I'm working at Mandalay Bay on the day there's a game, a Raiders game, and I need to park my vehicle. It's
$60.
$100 to park my car. As a photographer, a DJ, whatever, $100. They don't care. They don't care that you're working at event minister. They don't care. I mean, it's crazy.
Especially when you gotta go multiple places on the strip for the same event.
And try and take an Uber. It's
The wedding's here, the reception's there, the everything's there.
Wow.
You're
Oh,
paying
really?
3 different
Yeah,
fees
You're
in like
painting
2
at
hours.
Mandalay Bay that day, you're gonna have to pay $100 to park your car. They don't care if you're working a wedding, they don't care.
Honestly, that's something where you guys collectively could maybe come up with some ideas, because that's something that I hadn't even thought about before.
Right.
But if you came up and said, here's how, we need to figure out a way to allow the vendors to have special parking, things, anything that can help you out, because we don't want you to die during those weekends.
Yeah.
And those weekends should be beneficial for everybody,
Right.
not just for a few hotels.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, even in general, weekends too, it's $15 here, $12 there, you know, it all adds up in a day, you know.
I'm used to the good old days when you didn't have to.
Right,
Yeah.
that was only a few
Let's
years
go
ago.
back to
Good
the
old
local
days.
spot for free kind of deal or something, you know?
Go to Sahara.
The 50-cent shrimp cocktail.
I was there.
So we got time for one more. Does anybody,
Well, I gotta bring something up. Back to kind of the venue with the marijuana thing and the cafes. We're photographers, and one thing we've noticed for the last year or so, a lot more clientele has kind of gone more towards outdoor venues to let it smoke. Because you know, a lot of places in banquet halls and things like that, they obviously can't smoke inside, so they'll do like Reflection Bay or someplace else that has a patio, so they can go smoke there. Now, is there gonna be any kind of interest or some kind of conflicting things with laws or statutes on that? Or what? Because, you know, you got, you know, these marijuana dispensaries are gonna wanna have that targeted to them versus, you know, traditional wedding venues now that are trying to cater to that.
Well, one of the crazy things is that the politicians, most of the politicians still think marijuana smoke is like deadly. So even though you can buy it, you can't use it, but you walk up and down the strip and you smell it, right?
Yeah.
But I've been trying to do these outdoor venues. I mean, that would be perfect. But we can't do that outside because somebody might actually get a whiff of marijuana smoke.
Yeah.
But you go to a casino and there's cigarette smoke everywhere,
You
right?
smell it everywhere.
Literally killing people.
I watched the debate where they were debating how far away homes had to be from these consumption lounges that had outdoor areas, and some of these people felt like 2,000 feet was too close, you know, and it got to the point where they kind of said, well, if we make it that much distance, we won't be able to put them anywhere.
Yeah, where are you gonna put it?
You can't put them in because you know, you have so many houses and different residential areas. So I mean, they've worked really hard to try to get them, but it's not easy.
Yeah, but anyway, my goal is on 420, we're gonna shut down the strip and make it a big open air.
Yeah,
Come
why not?
on, let's go.
Maybe might work with some vendors and stuff down there.
We'll have weddings at both ends, and it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
So anything you wanna do, I'm willing to try it, and especially like shutting down the strip and having a mass wedding or parts of the strip or anything. Let's be creative. I mean, that's the fun thing about Vegas is we can try stuff, doesn't work, we don't do it again, but if there's a buck to be made, we'll do it.
I like it.
420 is becoming a more popular wedding date, and I
Oh,
just
yeah.
want to
Oh,
say
yeah.
that
Oh,
in
yeah.
October, we did 8,114 marriage licenses, which is the most licenses we've done in a month in 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, which was great.
Last Thursday, we did over 600, leading up to 11/11/22. So So I don't think we're gonna hit 80,000 this year, but I think we're gonna get really close.
What was the most marriage licenses ever issued? Was it?
For 777.
And, I mean, like, the year though, like 1 year, what was the most?
I think it was back in like 2003, 2004, it was like 104.
Oh,
No,
okay.
2004, they did 123,000 marriage
Okay.
licenses. It
And
was,
then it
What
just
happened
kind of
that year?
declined.
Like, what, was it a big marketing thing? Like,
So I think that was the year that Britney Spears got married. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Which
But it
time?
was
The
different.
oopsie
Yeah,
one?
bring her
The
back.
oopsie, yeah, the oopsie one, I think.
yeah, I think back then, you had society looked at marriage a little bit differently too. The decrease in numbers that we began to see that started around 2012, 2013 also was when millennials started to
Yep.
get married. And you found that the statistics showed that people were waiting to get married. They were waiting till they got out of college. They were
they
waiting.
don't wanna get married now.
Right, they were
Right.
waiting, they weren't getting married at 22 and 23 like our parents did. They were getting married at 26, 27, some waiting as late as 30 because they wanted to establish their careers, they wanted to establish their life. So just naturally, you saw in the beginning of the 2000s, there just were higher numbers. I also believe that with, you gotta remember 9/11 happened in 2001, a lot of stuff, everybody was scared and slowed down. So then the subsequent years, a couple years after that, you saw people starting to get married again. And I think Las Vegas just naturally was, you know, a beneficiary of that.
I've done it a few times myself.
You said that you were gonna staff up by the end of this year. Are you planning on reopening the Grand Central?
So, yes, I would like to open it by the end of the year. We also did restart passport acceptance. We started that last week in the Marriage Bureau. So we're offering that at night from 6 to 8 when people are off of work and can come in. Unfortunately, right now, the first week, we're getting probably about 40% of the people who booked appointments are showing up.
What about the kiosks and stuff? Are those getting more popular, but people utilizing that? Because don't they have it now at the airport as well?
So the airport, we don't have a kiosk. We actually put a person out there in February. I would love to have a permanent office out there at the airport.
Because that makes
Like
sense.
Southwest.
Again, that's something we can do.
That makes sense.
You know? Because like,
Even
my wife, we
locals.
talk about that too, like, you know, Vegas kind of do like an entertainment capital now too, is with the sports. So like, how can we tie, like, excuse me, weddings into that? Because we get a lot of couples that are like, oh, you know, yeah, we're gonna get married, and then on Sunday, we're going to the Raider game, or oh, Saturday night, we're going to the Knights game, you know? So it's like,
Right.
how can we tie that together? Like, you know, we got Formula One coming, we got the Aces here, you know, we got baseball, we got everything else. It's
Well,
like,
that's what it's gotta be. It's a destination where you come and you either go to see
Yeah.
Adele or one of those bit fancy things. I mean, there's so much to do here as part of a wedding.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to sell, but add that in advertising as far as, you know, don't just come here, but come here as a, to get married too.
When we did that earlier with, you know, with Electric Daisy Carnival, they issued a special commemorative certificate. We had an event that we did out there, just promoting the music festival that was coming, you know, and then my wife and I do all the weddings out there. And so we were able to kind of take our relationship with the producers of the festival and combine it with the Marriage Bureau to then just promote weddings in general. And we've
Do you
seen,
guys have a commercial for that, like a TV commercial?
what about, we had that Doc Vegas for a while too.
That was
Yeah.
really
Kind of
cool,
fizzled
but
out.
I
It's
think
like,
the TV commercials are a great idea, but like international.
because a lot of people probably like it, but they just don't even think about it.
the TV commercials have definitely gotten better. I remember, and Joni can back me up on this, I remember the big one was When It Happens in Vegas Stays in
Yes,
Vegas.
Oh, gosh,
that
yeah.
Was the one back in like 2007. It was a lady, it was like maybe mid to late 40s, and she married, it was early in the morning, she's kissing some really young guy, like 22, and she's got her room, she's like, I gotta go, she's like in town for a convention, and she met some guy overnight, and she married him. And now she gotta go, because she gotta go to her convention, and then it was What Happens in Vegas. And I was like, what in the world are you doing? We had a meeting in 2011 was when New York opened their Marriage Bureau. They didn't really make it easy in New York to get marriage license. New York City opened a Marriage Bureau. And everybody freaked out. And they were like, oh my God, it's gonna take all the people from Europe to come all the way over. They're just gonna go to New York now. They're not gonna come all the way to Vegas. So we had a big meeting with R&R partners, and we talked about all that. I told them, I said, you know, you're promoting weddings in a way that is not healthy, you know? And so definitely the fact that we've seen that marketing change, and now this, what happens, or forever happens here, you know, we want to see that that expands. So that's something, you know, as we take on to the wedding chamber and take over using what we can do with our relationship with the
So what
clerk's
you're saying is
office.
we gotta do a commercial with a couple trashed on the strip, and in the morning they're having breakfast with their kids, like in the buffet. You know
What
I
I'm
mean? Like-
what I'm wondering, and I might be late to the party, but is there a way for a couple to be on ice skates and to get married at T-Mobile? Is there going to be a couple that gets married on Raider on the field?
Oh, they do that.
So they do that already. Okay, I'm late to the party.
Yeah.
Are we
And
talking about it?
Yeah.
Like, are we promoting that?
And honestly, I mean, I know some ministers and different people that they've contacted those organizations. I did a playoff game for the Golden Knights. We did 30 weddings out on the Shiva Plaza for free for just people that were attending the game, and that was in conjunction with the Golden Knights. And they contacted us. So, you know, a lot of it is just your individual marketing and your individual relationships that you build.
Sometimes I feel like a lot of even tourists or even locals that they don't know all of that. Like we know because we're in this every day, every weekend, but like the outsiders, it's like, how do you know? Like unless there's a commercial or.
Right, that's where, you know, the internet,
Social media.
websites, you know, Instagram, all that stuff. There's a whole other world out there that you can reach out to people.
And the social media campaign that the clerk's office, you know, they get some money to have that, and they've been promoting different things. Some of it's not the bag on the counter, but some of it's been a little kind of, you know, they'll be like, this video got 1 million hits on TikTok. I'm like, really? Like, it's trying to understand what they're doing. So it's something to work with. But feedback helps. You know?
That's what I'm trying to think, it's like, y'all gotta get on the same page somehow, you know what I mean? I guess that's the problem with.
And that's a goal, and that is a goal
You know,
for us to come
it's
together as a
better
wedding
going-
industry to get on the same page.
So I was able to get a hold of Lynn before I came, and it was the last thing she said. She goes, well, you might wanna say the wedding industry needs to work together like the Restaurant Association,
That's
Hospitality Association, and Lodging Association. We've made some inroads, but unless the industry steps up to put growing the industry a priority, we are limited in our ability to regain market share.
Yeah. Cause I was thinking like, that's what we're trying to focus was at, like pre-COVID, and then of course COVID hit and just like.
Well, you have to realize too, that the average number of the marriage rate in the United States is steadily declining. So the fact that we're going up, that means we are increasing our market share. You know, and Kitty, you had to.
So is there a committee for, with the commercials and things like that, where you take suggestions from people? So like the suggestion of the commercial for the Raiders, like having all of these different couples getting married in different places in Las Vegas.
So
Like
that would
make
be
that
an
a commercial.
LCVA thing,
Mhm.
because the Marriage Bureau of the County, we don't have the money for that.
Well, but they can just have a place where, you know, people like you just offer to rank and form a committee to come up with ideas and then
Yeah,
take it to me.
so yeah, that's what I was asking, is there?
Or just networking so we all promote it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, there was a photographer there and a videographer, and I'm sure they would share their content.
Yeah,
Sure.
right? So they
And I
can
was gonna
just
say
put
that NHRA was here, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And I went to an over-the-top wedding at Cosmo, where one of the racers, Bo Butner, got married.
Mhm.
It was a big thing, and they did it here in Vegas, and that wedding was insane. So, you know, we've got the Grand Prix coming up, so if you can't get your guy down the aisle, you can get him down you can get him down the strip in a race car or
I think
something
it's just
like
people
that.
want more
you know.
bang for the buck. You know, like, oh,
Yeah.
we're going for a race weekend, let's redo our vows while we're there.
Right,
We got a hotel.
you know, you're
We're gonna
going
eat out there
anyways,
already.
perfect destination.
And there's always, now there's just, every weekend now, you're hearing some new festival. And I wish it was the 90s again festival, or, you know, whatever, you know? I mean, there's always different things that are expanding and growing. There's other opportunities. I work at full-time at a Western themed wedding chapel. We're insanely busy after Thanksgiving for 2 weeks during the rodeo.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you find what you do and what you can market and what you are able to attract, and those are the types of clients you go for. But that's something we have worked together as a community. And that's why being a member is important, because we want to promote our members, and we want to push our members, and we want to make everybody a collective group together. I love months ago, Shawanda said that using power partners, right? Is that the term? Power partners. So you have partners that make you more powerful. We're stronger together than we are apart. I believe when the chamber first started, that there, what was it?
Not a competition, it's a coalition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, not every chapel, that's the world I've come from, but not every chapel feels that way. They would stick each other in the street if they could.
We're being the change we want to see.
Yeah, so we will.
Well, I gotta go, but can we have a song?
No, yes. But thank you, Commissioner Segerblom, thank you, Paula, thank you, everyone. And keep an eye out for our next events coming up. We're gonna do something in January. We're gonna give you a chance to meet our new board, and we have some exciting new things. We're working on. We've applied for an education grant, actually from TISOH, to actually produce 6 educational events next year to help grow your business or different trends in design and different things for weddings to help us grow as a community. So just keep watching your emails. Make sure you're subscribed to our stuff. Make sure you're on our social media, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you.